On my 67th birthday, I stood frozen behind the kitchen door cake knife trembling in my hand. Through the crack, I heard my daughter Sarah whisper urgently to her husband, "Tom, I'll distract her. You go to her house and change the locks." My blood turned to ice. The house she meant was my late mother's Victorian home, the one I'd just inherited last week, the one I hadn't told anyone about yet. As Tom rushed out, I forced myself to walk back into the dining room, birthday smile plastered on my face. The morning had started so beautifully. I woke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window, the April breeze carrying the scent of blooming jasmine from my tiny balcony garden. 67 years old today. 3 years since my Harold passed, and this was the first birthday where I'd woken up feeling genuinely peaceful instead of achingly lonely. Sarah arrived at 9 sharp, earlier than expected, her arms full of shopping bags and that radiant smile that used to light up my classroom when she'd visit me at school. My daughter, 42, now successful and polished in her navy business suit, her blonde hair perfectly styled as always. She worked as a senior manager at First National Bank downtown, a position she'd earned through what I'd always believed was hard work and dedication. "Happy birthday, Mom." She enveloped me in a warm hug, the scent of her expensive perfume filling my small living room. "Tom's parking the car. We have so much planned for you today." I watched her transform my modest condo into a birthday wonderland. Silver streamers cascaded from the ceiling balloons in my favorite shade of lavender, clustered in corners, and fresh flowers appeared on every surface. The dining table disappeared under a white tablecloth with gold-trimmed china plates I didn't recognize, and crystal glasses that caught the morning light. Tom appeared in the doorway, his construction-weathered hands carrying an enormous cake box. At 45, my son-in-law still had that boyish charm that had won Sarah over in college, though lately I'd noticed new lines around his eyes and a tightness in his smile. "There's our birthday girl." He set the box down and surprised me with a kiss on the cheek. "You look absolutely radiant, Lynda. Honestly, you could pass for 57, not 67. The compliment felt odd. Tom was many things. Hardworking, practical, occasionally gruff, but effusive wasn't usually one of them. I smiled anyway, touched by the effort they were making. "Oh, you two didn't need to do all this." I gestured at the decorations, feeling slightly overwhelmed. My birthdays were usually quiet affairs. Dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe a small gift. This felt like a production. Nonsense. Sarah was already arranging a photography setup near the window. "You only turned 67 once. Besides, we need to make up for the last few years. I know we haven't been as present as we should have." The guilt in her voice seemed genuine, and I felt my heart soften. It was true. Since Harold's death, Sarah's visits had become less frequent. She'd blamed work pressures, the 40-minute drive across town, their own busy lives with teenage twins. I'd understood even as I'd missed her. "Mom, I brought your favorite wine." She produced a bottle of the expensive Pinot Grigio I only bought for special occasions. "And Tom made his famous spinach quiche. I know how much you love it." "She made me practice 3 times this week." Tom added, his laugh sounding forced. "Had to get it perfect for you." I noticed Sarah checking her phone, her manicured fingers flying across the screen before she tucked it away with an apologetic smile. "Sorry, just work. But today is all about you. I've already told them I'm unreachable." We settled into brunch, and I had to admit the quiche was perfect. Flaky crust, creamy filling with just the right amount of nutmeg. Sarah kept my wine glass full, regaling me with stories about the twins' latest adventures in high school. Tom chimed in occasionally, though I caught him glancing at his watch more than once. "Time for presents," Sarah announced, producing a stack of beautifully wrapped boxes. Designer scarves, expensive hand cream, a cashmere sweater in soft gray. Each gift was lovely, thoughtful, and far more extravagant than their usual offerings. "Sarah, this is too much," I protested, fingering the butter-soft cashmere. "You shouldn't have spent so much." "You deserve it, Mom. You gave up so much for me growing up. All those years of teaching scrimping and saving so I could have dance lessons and summer camps." Her eyes actually misted. I can never repay you for that. The photography session that followed felt endless. Sarah positioned me by the window with the cake holding each gift, smiling until my cheeks ached. For memories? She kept saying, adjusting my hair, straightening my new scarf. We need to document everything. It was during a break when I escaped to the kitchen for ice to refresh our drinks that my perfect birthday shattered. I'd left the door slightly ajar, not wanting to miss being called back for more photos. Sarah and Tom must have thought I'd gone to my bedroom at the far end of the condo. Sarah's voice low and urgent. She's been in the kitchen for 5 minutes. This is perfect. I'll distract her. You go to her house and change the locks. Are you sure she hasn't told anyone else? Tom's response equally quiet. Positive. I saw the lawyer's letter in the bank's system when I was reviewing large deposits. It only happened last week. Mother's estate was worth almost $3 million, Tom. $3 million. And that house alone is valued at 2.8. My hands gripped the counter as the room spun. Mother. My mother, Eleanor, who I hadn't spoken to in 20 years, who'd cut me off when I refused to divorce Harold after his business failed, who'd always made it clear she considered me a disappointment. Dead, and she'd left me everything. But what if she's already been there? Tom's voice carried worry. She hasn't. I've been watching her credit card activity. No gas purchases that would get her to Hillsborough. Plus, I took the spare keys from her purse when I hugged her earlier. She always keeps them in that inside pocket. Sarah, this is insane. What if we get caught? We won't. By the time she finds out, we'll have established residency. Adverse possession laws in this state are very clear. Plus, with the documentation I've been creating about her mental state, I bit down on my knuckle to keep from gasping. Mental state. What documentation? Just go, Sarah hissed. Take the truck. I'll keep her busy here for at least 2 more hours. Get the locksmith to meet you there, tell him you're the owner and lost your keys. Pay cash. I heard footsteps and forced myself to move, opening the freezer with shaking hands, pulling out an ice tray. My mind raced. Eleanor was dead. She'd left me her house, that gorgeous Victorian in Hillsborough I'd visited exactly once for a disaster of a Christmas dinner, where she'd spent the entire meal criticizing my cooking and Harold's table manners. And my daughter was stealing it from me. Mom. Sarah's voice from the doorway made me jump, ice scattering across the counter. Everything okay? You've been in here a while. I turned amazed that my voice came out steady. Just trying to find the good ice cube trays. You know me, always particular about my drinks. She laughed, already moving to help. That's what I love about you. Even on your birthday, you're fussing over hosting us properly. She linked her arm through mine. Come on, I want to get some photos of you with the cake before we cut it. I let her lead me back to the dining room, my smile automatic, my mind churning. How did she know about the inheritance bank records she'd said? Of course, she had access to the system, could see large deposits. The lawyer's payment must have triggered some alert. Tom was gone, his truck no longer visible through the window, off to steal my mother's house while I posed for pictures like a fool. Mom, you're shaking. Sarah observed her concern, looking so genuine I almost believed it. Are you cold? I can turn up the heat. Just overwhelmed, I said truthfully. This is all so much. You deserve to be spoiled. She positioned me by the cake, 3 tiers of chocolate decadence with delicate sugar roses. Say cheese. I smiled and smiled, all while my brain cataloged every detail. The way Sarah kept checking the time, how she'd refilled my wine glass 3 times already, the strange aftertaste in the Pinot Grigio I'd attributed to its age. My God, were they drugging me? Let's cut the cake. Sarah produced a silver serving knife with a flourish. Make a wish, Mom. I closed my eyes, pretending to think while actually praying for strength. When I opened them, I knew what I had to do. I had to play along, had to pretend I suspected nothing, while I figured out exactly what my daughter was planning. My wish already came true. I said, meaning something entirely different than what she'd think. Having you here, making such an effort, it means the world to me. Sarah's smile faltered for just a second, something flickering in her eyes. Guilt. Calculation. Then she was hugging me again, and I smelled that expensive perfume, felt the grip that was just a little too tight. We're family, Mom. Family takes care of each other. As she pulled away, I saw her check her phone again. A text from Tom, probably. Had he reached the house, changed the locks already? My mind went to Eleanor's Victorian. All those rooms full of antiques, the Tiffany lamps, the Oriental rugs. And somewhere in that house, I realized with sudden clarity, was probably a safe. Eleanor had been paranoid about banks always kept cash and important documents at home. Sarah didn't know about that safe, but I did. Eleanor had shown it to me once 25 years ago when she'd been updating her will the first time and needed a witness, behind the portrait of my father in the study. The combination was his birthday. I'd never forgotten it. Mom, you've gone quiet. Sarah touched my arm. Are you feeling all right? Just thinking about your grandmother, I said honestly. We never reconciled. I suppose we never will now. Sarah's face went carefully blank. What made you think of her? I gestured at the elaborate spread. She always did birthdays big, too. Before we stopped talking, anyway. I watched Sarah's reaction carefully. I wonder what happened to her. She'd be 91 now. I'm sure she's fine, Sarah said quickly. Too quickly. Probably in some luxury retirement community. You know how she was about maintaining standards. Lies. All lies. My daughter sat across from me cutting cake with steady hands, lying about my mother's death, planning to steal my inheritance, documenting my supposed mental decline. I took a small bite of cake. It was delicious, but I could barely taste it. How long had this been going on? How long had my daughter been planning to betray me? Sarah, honey. I said suddenly, I'm feeling a bit tired. Would you mind terribly if I took a little break, just 20 minutes to lie down? I think the wine is getting to me. Of course. She was on her feet instantly. Take all the time you need. Tom should be back soon anyway. He just ran to get more ice. We're almost out. Another lie. I nodded gratefully and headed to my bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Then I grabbed my cell phone and my purse, slipping out through the sliding door to my balcony. My bedroom was on the ground floor, and it was easy enough to step over the railing onto the grass. I had to get to Hillsborough, had to see what Tom was doing at my mother's house. But first I made a quick call to Marcus Rodriguez, the locksmith who'd helped me when I'd locked myself out 6 months ago. He'd given me his personal cell for emergencies. Marcus, it's Lynda Patterson. I know this is unusual, but I need your help urgently. Can you meet me in Hillsborough in 30 minutes? I'll pay triple your emergency rate. As I climbed into my old Toyota, I allowed myself one glance back at my condo. Through the window, I could see Sarah still at the dining table, scrolling through her phone, probably looking at the photos she'd taken. My perfect birthday was over. Now it was time to find out exactly what my daughter had planned for me. The drive to Hillsborough took 35 minutes, though I made it in 28, my hands gripping the steering wheel as I navigated through Saturday afternoon traffic. Each red light felt like an eternity, every slow driver a deliberate obstacle. My mind kept circling back to Sarah's words. Documentation about her mental state. What documentation? How long had she been building this case against me? Eleanor's house sat on Maple Ridge Drive, a tree-lined street where old money whispered rather than shouted. The Victorian rose 3 stories into the California sky painted in cream, with forest green trim, wrapped in a wide porch that I'd only stood on once. 20 years of estrangement ended by death, and a will I knew nothing about until Sarah's overheard confession. Tom's construction truck squatted in the driveway like an accusation. I parked around the corner, approaching on foot through the side garden. The roses were blooming, red climbers that Eleanor had been so proud of now growing wild without her careful hand. Through the kitchen window, I saw Tom on his phone, pacing. His voice carried through the old single-pane glass. Yeah, the locksmith just left. All the doors are done. Front, back, and side entrance. New keys right here. A pause. No, she's still at the party. Sarah's got her drinking that wine with the Xanax crushed in it. She should be pretty foggy by now. Xanax. They were drugging me. My stomach lurched as I pressed my hand against the rough siding of the house. How many times every visit, just special occasions? I thought back to recent family dinners, the unusual fatigue afterward, the fuzzy memories Sarah always attributed to Mom getting older. The developer can meet us here Monday morning, Tom continued. Cash offer $3.2 million. We close in 2 weeks, tell them it's an emergency liquidation. By the time Lynda figures out the house exists, it'll be sold and we'll be gone. Gone. My daughter was planning to steal my inheritance and disappear. I crept around to the front, careful to stay below window level. The new brass lock set gleamed in the afternoon sun. Tom had been thorough. Even the decorative handle on the screen door had been changed. But he didn't know about the cellar doors. Eleanor, paranoid about earthquakes and home invasions, had shown me the hidden entrance during that long-ago Christmas visit. If there's ever an emergency, she'd said, lifting a section of lattice beside the north corner of the porch. This is original to the house, built during Prohibition. My fingers found the concealed latch and the narrow door swung open on well-oiled hinges. Eleanor must have maintained it. The wooden steps descended into darkness, but I remembered the light switch just inside exactly where she'd shown me. The cellar smelled of old wood and furniture polish. I navigated between sheet-covered shapes, furniture in storage boxes labeled in Eleanor's precise handwriting. The stairs to the main floor creaked, but Tom's voice from the kitchen masked any sound I made. I emerged in the butler's pantry, separated from the kitchen by a swinging door. Through the crack, I could see Tom clearly now, still on his phone. "Monica, baby, I told you not to call when I'm working on this." His voice had dropped to an intimate tone that made my skin crawl. Sarah's best friend, Monica. "Yes, I'll see you tonight. Sarah thinks I'm checking job sites until late." He listened, then laughed. An ugly sound. "Trust me, after we get this money, I'm done with her. $3.2 million split 2 ways is enough for us to start fresh in Costa Rica. You've got your passport ready." I pulled out my phone, fumbling to start the recording app with shaking fingers. Evidence. I needed evidence. Look, Sarah's useful for now. Her banking access, her knowledge of finances. We couldn't pull this off without her. But she's become a liability with that gambling problem. You know she owes almost $200,000 to some very unpleasant people. My knees nearly buckled. Sarah had a gambling addiction. My straight-A student. My responsible banker daughter. Once we get the old lady declared incompetent and sell this place, I'll make sure Sarah takes the fall if anything goes wrong. All the documents are in her handwriting. I'm just the concerned son-in-law trying to help. The betrayal was breathtaking in its completeness. Not only was my daughter planning to steal from me, but her husband was planning to steal from her. I thought of Sarah back at my condo, so confident in her scheme, not knowing she was being played too. Tom ended his call and moved toward the front of the house. I slipped through the dining room into the study, my heart hammering. This was where Eleanor had spent her evenings, surrounded by first editions and antique maps. And there above the fireplace hung the oil portrait of my father in his naval uniform. My fingers found the hidden catches on the frame and it swung open to reveal the safe. The combination lock was exactly as I remembered. My father's birthday, November 15th, 1942. The tumblers clicked and the heavy door opened. Inside, neat stacks of documents filled the upper shelves. The lower section held cash, more than I'd ever seen in one place. But it was the manila envelope marked Sarah Evidence that made my hands tremble. I pulled it out, spilling the contents across Eleanor's mahogany desk. Photographs tumbled out. Surveillance photos of Sarah entering Eleanor's house, leaving with boxes, silver pieces visible in her arms. Receipts from pawn shops, bank statements showing regular withdrawals from Eleanor's accounts, small amounts that added up to thousands. A letter in Eleanor's handwriting lay on top. "My dear Lynda, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've found the safe. I've been a fool and a coward. For 20 years, I let pride keep us apart. You chose love over money when you stayed with Harold, and I punished you for it. You were right. Love matters more. Sarah has been visiting me for the past 5 years. At first, I was thrilled. My granddaughter coming back to me. I lavished her with gifts, gave her money whenever she asked. But then things started disappearing. Small things initially. A silver spoon, a piece of jewelry. I hired a private investigator. Your daughter is sick, Lynda. The gambling has consumed her. She's stolen over $300,000 from me through various means. I've documented everything but couldn't bring myself to press charges. She's still my granddaughter. I'm leaving everything to you because you're the only one I trust to do the right thing. The house, the money, the collections, it's all yours. Sarah knows she's not in the will. She's been asking probing. Be careful. I should have told you I was proud of you. You became a teacher, shaped young minds, made a difference. I accumulated things. You accumulated love. You were the wealthier one all along. All my love and deepest regrets, Mother. I sank into the desk chair, the letter trembling in my hands. 5 years. Sarah had been visiting Eleanor for 5 years, while telling me my mother wanted nothing to do with us. Every holiday when I'd asked if we should reach out, Sarah had insisted Eleanor had rejected all contact. She called me last month. Sarah had lied at Christmas, said she never wants to hear from any of us again. I photographed every document with my phone, then carefully replaced them in the safe. The cash I left untouched. There would be time for that later. Right now, I needed more evidence of what was happening today. Tom's footsteps echoed overhead. He was checking the bedrooms, probably cataloging valuable items for quick sale. I had minutes before he'd come downstairs. In the kitchen, I found his contractor's clipboard on the counter. Sloppy of him to leave it out. The top sheet was a contract with a demolition company scheduled for next Friday. They weren't even going to try selling the antiques, just destroy everything and sell the land. My phone buzzed. Sarah, Mom, are you okay? You've been resting for an hour, getting worried. An hour, I'd lost track of time. I typed back, sorry, honey, felt dizzy. Gonna stay lying down a bit longer. Her response was instant. I'll bring you some water and crackers. No, she couldn't find me gone. I photographed the demolition contract and slipped back through the butler's pantry to the cellar. As I reached the hidden door, I heard Tom's truck start. He was leaving, phase 1 of their plan complete. I drove back toward my condo but stopped first at a FedEx office. I uploaded all the photos to cloud storage, emailed copies to myself, and printed hard copies that I sent to Patricia Summers, a lawyer friend from my teaching days. The note I included was brief. Pat, please hold these documents. I'll explain soon. If anything happens to me, take them to the FBI. When I finally walked back into my condo through the bedroom slider, I made sure to muss my hair and wrinkle my clothes. Sarah was on the sofa, her face a mask of concern that might have fooled me 3 hours ago. Mom, I was about to call 911. You weren't answering your door. Sorry, sweetheart. I must have fallen into a deep sleep. That wine really hit me hard. I swayed slightly, playing into her narrative. Where's Tom? Oh, he had to check on a job site. Some emergency with a foundation pour. She was at my side instantly, her arm around my waist. Let me help you to the living room. I saved you some cake. I let her guide me, noting how she watched my every movement. Was she documenting my confusion, recording me? Sarah, I've been having the strangest dreams, I said carefully. About your grandmother, Eleanor. Do you ever think about her? Something flickered in her eyes before she smiled. Sometimes, but you know she doesn't want contact with us. Maybe I should try writing to her one more time. Life's too short for grudges. Mom, no. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened. She was very clear, and honestly, after how she treated you and Dad, she doesn't deserve your forgiveness. I nodded sadly. You're probably right. I just hate having unfinished business. At my age, you start thinking about what you'll leave behind. Don't talk like that. She settled me on the couch, tucking an Afghan around my legs like I was an invalid. You've got many years ahead of you, though. She paused, biting her lip in a performance of concern. Have you been taking your medications correctly? You seem a bit more confused lately. What medications? I kept my voice vague, worried. Your blood pressure pills, Mom. Remember Dr. Harrison prescribed them last month. Dr. Harrison had prescribed nothing. My blood pressure was perfect at my last checkup, but I nodded slowly. Oh, yes. Sometimes I forget if I've taken them. Sarah pulled out her phone, making a note. I'm going to start a medication log for you. We need to keep track. She looked up, her face full of false sympathy. Maybe we should talk about getting you some help. Just someone to check in daily, make sure you're taking care of yourself. That's very thoughtful, dear. I closed my eyes, letting her think the drugs were working. In truth, I'd only had 2 sips of the wine before our trip to the kitchen. I'm so lucky to have you. Family takes care of family. She repeated the words like a knife between my ribs. Tom returned an hour later, his clothes dusty from the job site. He kissed Sarah with lips that had been promising another woman Costa Rica. I watched them perform their concerned family routine and wanted to scream. Instead, I yawned. I think I need to go to bed early. This has been a wonderful birthday, but I'm exhausted. Of course, Mom. Sarah helped me stand, walking me to my bedroom. I'll just tidy up before we go. You rest. I lay in bed, fully clothed, listening to them clean my kitchen and whisper urgently to each other. Through the thin walls, I caught fragments. A locksmith was perfect. No questions asked. Medication log started. Dr. Keller will testify. Guardian hearing next week. Judge Morrison. They had a doctor ready to lie. A judge lined up. How deep did this go? After they left, I waited another hour before getting up. In the darkness of my living room, I sat with Eleanor's letter, reading it by moonlight. My mother had tried to warn me. She documented Sarah's crimes, but couldn't bring herself to act. I wouldn't make the same mistake. Tomorrow I'd begin my performance, the confused elderly woman my daughter wanted me to be. But tonight I had calls to make. Marcus the locksmith, who'd wonder why I hadn't shown up. Patricia the lawyer, who'd receive my package Monday morning. Mrs. Anderson next door, the retired FBI agent who'd mentioned she was always available if I needed help. My daughter thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She was wrong. I'd been a teacher for 40 years, managing classrooms full of teenagers who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I'd learned patience strategy, and most importantly, how to let someone think they were winning right up until the moment they lost everything. Sarah wanted to document my decline. I'd give her exactly what she expected to see. And while she was busy writing her fictional narrative, I'd be writing the true story. One that would end with justice. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Mrs. Anderson's number. It was time to start fighting back. Sunday morning arrived with a perfection that felt mocking. Clear skies and birdsong while my world tilted on its axis. I'd barely slept, my mind churning through everything I'd discovered. The safe's contents had revealed layers of deception I was still processing. At 7 sharp, I heard Mrs. Anderson's distinctive knock. 2 quick, 3 slow. I'd called her after midnight, and she'd insisted on coming early before Sarah might show up for another concerned daughter visit. Lynda. She entered with the contained energy that probably never left after 30 years with the FBI. At 75, Dorothy Anderson was sharp as a fresh blade, her silver hair pulled back, severely dark eyes, missing nothing. Show me everything. I'd printed the photos from Eleanor's safe at the 24-hour copy center, spreading them across my dining table. Dorothy examined each one with professional detachment, occasionally making notes in a small pad. Your mother hired a good investigator, she said finally. This documentation would hold up in court, but what happened yesterday is attempted felony theft. We need to move carefully. They drugged me, Dorothy. My own daughter drugged me. Can you prove it? I showed her the wine glass I'd preserved, still holding residue. I pretended to drink more than I did, and Tom mentioned Xanax on his recorded call. Dorothy smiled, a sharp, dangerous expression. Good instincts. I know someone at the lab who can fast-track a test. Now tell me about this guardian hearing. I repeated what I'd overheard. Dr. Keller, Judge Morrison next week. Dorothy's expression darkened. Morrison's been investigated twice for taking bribes. Never proven, but she tapped her pen against the pad. And Dr. Keller lost his license in Nevada before relocating here. I'll make some calls. Can we stop them? We can do better than that. We can let them hang themselves. She leaned forward. But you'll need to play along completely. Can you do that? Pretend to deteriorate while we build our case. I thought of Eleanor's letter, her regret at not acting sooner. I can do whatever it takes. Good. First, we need to secure that safe's contents legally. Do you have keys to the house? No, but there's the hidden entrance. Dorothy shook her head. Can't use it. Everything we do must be completely legal. But if you inherited the house, you have the right to access it. We'll get a locksmith and a sheriff's deputy to accompany us. Document that Tom changed the locks without authorization. She made calls while I dressed carefully. Slightly mismatched clothes, hair not quite properly brushed. If I was playing a declining elderly woman, I needed to look the part. By 9, we were at Eleanor's house with Deputy Chen, whose name would have been on my forbidden list, but she was already there, a young officer Dorothy knew and Marcus Rodriguez, who'd finally gotten my emergency call. Mrs. Patterson. Marcus looked relieved. I was worried when you didn't show yesterday. I'm sorry I got confused about the time, I said, vaguely letting my words drift. Deputy Chen documented everything as Marcus drilled out Tom's new locks. Inside, I led them directly to the study. The portrait swung open at my touch, and I carefully entered the combination. Dorothy whistled low when she saw the contents. There has to be $500,000 in cash here, Deputy Chen breathed. We'll need to document every serial number. The important things are these. I handed over the envelope of Sarah's thefts. My mother was building a case against my daughter. We spent 3 hours cataloging everything. The cash alone totaled $543,000. The bearer bonds were worth another $200,000. Eleanor's jewelry stored in velvet boxes included pieces I remembered from my childhood. Her emerald engagement ring, the pearl necklace my father gave her for their anniversary. But it was the other documents that revealed the full scope of Eleanor's investigation. Bank statements showing Sarah's escalating thefts, credit reports revealing my daughter's massive gambling debts, photos of Sarah meeting with known bookies, a letter from a casino in Reno banning her for life after she was caught marking cards. Your mother was thorough, Dorothy observed. She even has receipts showing Sarah sold family heirlooms and then reported them stolen to collect insurance money. Insurance fraud on top of everything else. Deputy Chen shook her head. This is enough for federal charges. In a locked drawer, I found more letters from Eleanor, one dated just a month ago. Lynda, I don't have much time left. The doctors say 6 months at most. I've made sure everything is ironclad. The will is with 3 different law firms, all instructed to contact you directly upon my death. Sarah came again yesterday. She's desperate now. The gambling debts have reached a point where she's in physical danger. She asked me to mortgage the house, claimed it was for the twins' college funds. I refused. She doesn't know I know about Tom's affairs or his plans to leave her. That fool thinks he's clever, but I've had him followed too. He's setting her up to take the fall for everything while he runs off with her friend Monica. I should have reached out to you years ago. Pride is a cold bedfellow, and I've slept with it far too long. You were right to choose love. I chose money and died alone with it. Use what I've left you wisely. Save Sarah if you can. She's sick, not evil. But protect yourself first. She's beyond desperate now, and desperate people do terrible things. Your mother, Eleanor. She knew she was dying, I whispered. She never told anyone. Dorothy placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. She told you in the only way she could, through this evidence. We locked everything in evidence bags, Deputy Chen providing official receipts. The house would be secured with new locks with only law enforcement, and I having access until the investigation was complete. Back at my condo, I had just enough time to hide the receipts before Sarah arrived for her daily check-in. I heard her key in the lock. When had she made herself a copy? Mom, her voice carried false cheer. I brought lunch. I emerged from my bedroom, making sure to bump slightly into the doorframe. Sarah, what day is it? It's Sunday, Mom. She was at my side, instantly evaluating. Are you feeling confused? Just tired, I didn't sleep well. I let her guide me to the kitchen, where she'd already started unpacking containers. What's all this? Soup from that place you like. Easy to digest. She ladled out a portion, and I noticed her hand hover over it for a moment when she turned to get spoons. Adding something, I ate slowly, carefully, pushing most of it around while seeming to consume it. Sarah watched every bite. Mom, I made an appointment for you with Dr. Keller tomorrow. Just a checkup, nothing serious. Do I know Dr. Keller? He's new, specializes in geriatric care. I think he could really help with your memory issues. I nodded acceptingly. That's thoughtful of you, dear. Will you come with me? Of course, I've already taken the day off work. She paused, then added casually, I also think we should talk about updating your power of attorney, just in case you ever need help managing things. Whatever you think is best. I made my voice small, uncertain. I trust you, sweetheart. The relief that flashed across her face was painful to see. My daughter, my baby girl, relieved that her mother was becoming helpless. There's some paperwork to sign. Nothing major, just giving me authority to help with your banking if needed. She produced documents from her purse already prepared. Should I read them to you? I pretended to struggle with the fine print, then shook my head. Just show me where to sign. But I'd learned from Eleanor. As I signed Lynda Patterson in shaky letters, I made sure each signature was subtly different. A loop here, an extra curve there. Any handwriting expert would spot the deliberate variations. Sarah stayed for 2 more hours documenting my confusion with her phone. I gave her exactly what she wanted, forgetting names, repeating questions, looking lost in my own home. When she finally left, I was exhausted from the performance. That evening, Patricia Summers called. My lawyer friend had received the package and reviewed everything. Lynda, this is serious. We need to file papers immediately to protect your assets. Not yet, I said. I need them to think their plan is working. Can you prepare everything but wait to file? That's dangerous. If something happens to you, Dorothy Anderson is watching, and now you have copies of everything. If I disappear or have an accident, you'll know why. Patricia reluctantly agreed. We set up code words. If I called and mentioned Harold's birthday, she'd file everything immediately and contact the FBI. I spent the rest of Sunday evening writing my own letters documenting everything from my perspective. One to each of the twins, Sarah's children, to be opened on their 18th birthdays. They deserved to know the truth eventually, but not while they were still young enough to be poisoned by their parents' version. As night fell, I stood at Eleanor's portrait, which I'd brought home from the house. My mother stared back stern and elegant, hiding pain behind propriety. I understand now, I told her painted face. You tried to save her without destroying her, but sometimes mother salvation requires destruction first. Tomorrow would begin the next phase. Dr. Keller's examination, the competency hearing, Tom's developer meeting. They thought they were closing a trap on a confused old woman. They had no idea the trap was already closed and they were the ones inside it. I set my alarm for 6, took one of the sleeping pills I'd hidden for years but never used, and let myself rest. I'd need all my strength for what was coming. In my dreams, Eleanor smiled and said, "Give them hell, daughter. It's what I would do." Monday morning arrived with Sarah at 8 sharp, dressed in her most conservative suit, the caring daughter costume. I'd prepared carefully hair slightly uncombed, wearing the same cardigan from yesterday with a small stain on the sleeve mismatched earrings, details that would photograph well for her documentation. Ready for your appointment, Mom. She studied me with the intensity of a predator checking if prey was properly weakened. Appointment. I blinked slowly. Did I forget again? Dr. Keller, remember I told you yesterday. She helped me with my coat unnecessarily, her phone propped to capture video of me struggling with the buttons. It's just a routine checkup. In her car, I noticed a folder on the dashboard labeled L. Patterson Medical. My name reduced to initials my personhood to a medical file. During the drive, she made small talk while I responded with carefully calculated confusion, mixing up the twins' names, asking twice where we were going. Dr. Keller's office occupied a strip mall between a liquor store and a payday loan center. Red flags everywhere. No respectable geriatric specialist would practice here. The waiting room smelled of mildew and desperation, occupied by elderly people who sat too still, stared too vacantly. Mrs. Patterson. A nurse with cold eyes called us back immediately. No other patients being seen. This appointment had been orchestrated. Dr. Keller looked like a weasel given human form, thin, sharp-featured with darting eyes that never quite met mine. His diploma from a Caribbean medical school hung crookedly on stained walls. "Mrs. Patterson, your daughter's very concerned about you." He didn't examine me, just started writing. "Tell me, what year is it?" 2000. I let my voice trail off, looking to Sarah for help. "Have you been having trouble sleeping, confusion, difficulty, managing daily tasks?" Before I could answer, Sarah interjected, "She's been deteriorating rapidly, forgetting to eat, leaving the stove on, getting lost driving." Lies poured from her mouth like poison. "I found her wandering the neighborhood last Tuesday at 3 a.m. I'd been sleeping soundly last Tuesday, as my security system could verify, but I said nothing, just smiled vaguely." "I see." Dr. Keller continued writing without looking up. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to recommend immediate intervention. A guardian to help manage your affairs while we evaluate treatment options." "That sounds nice," I said mildly. "Will you be my guardian?" He actually smiled. "No, but your daughter's volunteered. Such a devoted child." The examination, if you could call it that, lasted 12 minutes. No cognitive tests, no physical evaluation, nothing that would stand up to scrutiny. But then it wasn't meant to. This was theater, and everyone knew their roles. "I'll have my report ready for the hearing Thursday," Dr. Keller told Sarah. "Judge Morrison's expecting it." Thursday. 3 days to finish gathering evidence. Back in the car, Sarah was triumphant. "See, Mom getting help isn't so bad. Dr. Keller's going to make sure you're taken care of." He seemed nice, I agreed, though I can't remember his name already. She patted my hand with false sympathy while driving not toward my condo but toward Eleanor's house. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression blank. "I thought we'd visit grandmother's old house," she said casually. "Would you like that?" "Grandmother's—" I let excitement creep into my voice. "Is she home?" "No, Mom, remember grandmother's away." We pulled into the driveway where a Lincoln Town car already waited. Tom stood with another man, expensive Suit Shark Smile briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Mrs. Patterson." The shark approached, hand extended. "I'm David Brennan from Brennan Development. Your son-in-law tells me you're interested in selling this property." "Am I?" I looked between them, confused. "This is grandmother's house." "Mom's been having some memory issues," Sarah explained smoothly, "but she's definitely expressed interest in simplifying her life. Haven't you, Mom?" I nodded obediently. Simple is good. I get confused with too many things. Brennan produced papers. "Well, this is very simple. We're prepared to offer $3.2 million cash. Close in 10 days. You just need to sign here." "That's a lot of numbers," I said, then brightened. "Will grandmother get the money?" Tom and Sarah exchanged looks. The developer shifted uncomfortably. Apparently, they hadn't fully briefed him on my supposed condition. "Why don't we go inside?" Sarah suggested. "Mom needs to sit down." They had keys, of course. Tom's new locks opened smoothly. Inside Eleanor's house, I played my role while memorizing everything. Tom had already removed several valuable paintings. Empty spaces on the walls screamed their absence. "Where are grandmother's pictures?" I asked plaintively. "Being cleaned," Sarah lied. "Now about these papers." I let them position me at Eleanor's dining table, the developer spreading contracts before me. $3.2 million for a property worth at least $4 million, probably $5 with the antiques. but they needed quick cash and I was their ATM. I don't understand all these words, I said truthfully. The contract was deliberately complex, full of legal jargon designed to confuse even competent adults. That's why I'm here to help. Sarah guided my hand to the signature line. Just sign here, here, and here. I started to write, then stopped. My name looks funny. That's okay, Mom. Just do your best. I signed with a shaky hand, making the signature obviously different from my usual one. Anyone comparing it to my real signature would know immediately it was signed under duress. The developer, eager for his commission, barely glanced at it. Excellent. We'll have inspectors here tomorrow, and I'll bring the check to closing next week. He shook hands with Tom, ignoring me entirely. To him, I'd already ceased to exist as a person. After he left, Sarah and Tom did a victory dance in my mother's kitchen. I watched from the doorway, forgotten already, as they celebrated stealing my inheritance. $3.2 million. Tom grabbed Sarah, spinning her. Baby, we did it. The guardian hearing's just a formality now. Sarah laughed. Morrison's completely on board. By Friday, I'll have full control of all her assets. What about the twins? Tom asked suddenly. They'll ask questions. They're teenagers. We'll tell them Grandma needs special care, maybe move her to a facility. Sarah's casual discussion of imprisoning me in a nursing home hit like ice water. They barely visit anyway. I must have made a sound because they both turned. Sarah's expression shifted instantly to concern. Mom, we were just happy the house will be sold. Less for you to worry about. That's nice, dear, I said. Can I go home now? I'm tired. They drove me back to my condo, Sarah staying to make dinner while Tom left for his job site, probably Monica's apartment. I ate the doctored food, carefully palming pills when possible, maintaining my facade of decline. That night after Sarah left, I had visitors. Dorothy Anderson brought Marcus Rodriguez and Patricia Summers. We sat in my darkened living room, curtains drawn, speaking in whispers. The developer's legitimate but known for quick flips of questionable properties, Dorothy reported. He's been investigated for elderly exploitation before. The signature on those contracts is clearly forged, Patricia added. No competent person would sign such disadvantageous terms. And I've researched Dr. Keller. He's one violation away from losing his license entirely. What about Judge Morrison? I asked. Dorothy smiled grimly. That's where it gets interesting. Tom's been doing free construction work on Morrison's vacation home. Sarah's been advising him on investments. The connections are all there. So we have them on fraud, forgery, elderly abuse, judicial corruption. Patricia counted on her fingers. This is enough for federal charges. Not yet, I said. The hearing's Thursday. Let them think they've won completely. I want them on record in court lying under oath. Marcus spoke up. Mrs. Patterson, they're dangerous. What if they decide you're more trouble than you're worth? I'd thought of that. That's why I need you all to be ready. If anything happens to me, you have everything you need to bury them. We spent another hour planning. Patricia would attend the hearing as a concerned friend. Dorothy would have federal marshals on standby. Marcus would document any further changes to Eleanor's property. After they left, I sat with Eleanor's photo albums I'd rescued from the house. Pictures of Sarah as a baby, a toddler, a bright-eyed child who'd wanted to be a teacher like Mommy. When had that sweet girl become someone capable of poisoning her own mother? The gambling, I realized. It had to be the gambling. Addiction changed people, made them desperate, willing to do anything. Eleanor had seen it, tried to help without enabling. But Sarah had been too far gone, the debts too deep, the fear too great. My phone buzzed. Sarah checking in. How are you feeling? Remember, we have court Thursday. I'll pick you up at 9. I typed back slowly, deliberately, including a typo, what court Thursday when... Her response was immediate. Don't worry about it, Mom. I'll handle everything. Yes, I thought. You'll handle everything. And I'll be there to watch it all come crashing down. Tuesday and Wednesday passed in a blur of continued performance. I let Sarah document my decline, attended another appointment with Dr. Keller, where he prescribed enough sedatives to drop an elephant, and signed more papers I made sure were obviously forged. Tom moved more items from Eleanor's house. Sarah transferred money from my checking to hers for safekeeping. They were so confident, so careless in their greed. They never noticed Dorothy's surveillance, Patricia's preparations, or the federal investigation building around them like a closing net. Wednesday night, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow would either free me or destroy what was left of my family. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights, and made a promise to Eleanor's memory. Justice, whatever the cost, justice. Thursday morning dawned gray and drizzly-fitting weather for the demolition of my family. I dressed carefully in the outfit Sarah had laid out, a pastel sweater set that made me look fragile and old sensible shoes, minimal jewelry, the costume of a woman who needed protection from herself. Sarah arrived early, nervous energy crackling around her like static. Big day, Mom. After today, you won't have to worry about anything anymore. The irony of her words wasn't lost on me. After today, I truly wouldn't have to worry about my daughter's betrayal anymore. Where are we going? I asked for the third time, maintaining my confused persona. To see a judge, remember, he's going to help us make sure you're taken care of. In the car, she coached me. If the judge asks you any questions, just tell him you trust me to help you. Can you remember that? I trust you. I repeated obediently, the words ashes in my mouth. The courthouse was a modern building of glass and steel, all hard edges and cold efficiency. Sarah guided me through security, her hand firm on my elbow, playing the devoted daughter for anyone watching. We met Tom outside courtroom 4, where he waited with Dr. Keller and their lawyer, a nervous young man who kept adjusting his tie. Mrs. Patterson, the lawyer greeted me. I'm James Whitfield. I'll be representing your daughter's petition today. I smiled vaguely at him, then noticed Patricia Summers seated in the gallery. She gave me the slightest nod. Dorothy Anderson was there too, in the back row, her phone suspiciously angled to record everything. All rise for the Honorable Judge Morrison. Morrison looked exactly like what he was, a man who'd sold his oath for a vacation home renovation. Florid face, expensive watch eyes that skimmed over me like I was furniture. This is the matter of Sarah Coleman petitioning for guardianship of Lynda Patterson, the bailiff announced. Sarah took the stand, first tears ready in her eyes. Her performance was masterful. My mother's been deteriorating rapidly, she testified. She forgets to eat, can't manage her medications, gets confused about where she is. Last week, I found her trying to give her banking information to a telemarketer. Lie after lie, delivered with just enough emotion to seem genuine. Tom corroborated everything, adding his own embellishments about finding me wandering confused in places I'd never been. Dr. Keller presented his report, 12 pages of fabrication dressed up in medical terminology. Mrs. Patterson shows clear signs of moderate to severe cognitive decline. Without intervention, she's a danger to herself. And you believe guardianship is necessary? Morrison asked, already knowing the answer. Absolutely essential. Mrs. Coleman has shown exceptional dedication to her mother's care. Then came my turn. Sarah's lawyer approached me gently as if I might spook. Mrs. Patterson, do you understand why we're here today? I looked around the courtroom with calculated confusion. Is this about grandmother's house? Sarah said we're selling it? Morrison leaned forward. Your grandmother's house? The pretty one with the roses. Sarah and Tom took me there. I signed papers, but I don't remember what they said. I turned to Sarah. Did I do it right, sweetheart? Sarah's face went pale. That wasn't in the script. Can you tell us about your daily routine, Mrs. Patterson? The lawyer pressed on. Well, Sarah comes to check on me. She brings me special tea that makes me sleepy. And pills. So many pills. I smiled innocently. She takes such good care of me, always making sure I sign things, helping with my banking. Morrison shifted uncomfortably. This was veering off script for him, too. Do you want your daughter to be your guardian? The lawyer asked desperately. I tilted my head. What's a guardian? Someone who helps take care of you. Oh, I brightened. Like how Sarah's been taking money from my accounts to keep it safe, she's so thoughtful. And she visits grandmother without me. I used to visit grandmother too, but Sarah says she doesn't want to see me anymore. Your Honor. Sarah's lawyer interrupted. Mrs. Patterson is clearly confused. Am I asked the room. I get confused sometimes. Ever since Sarah started giving me that special tea. Tom knows about it. He told someone on the phone about the Xanax. The courtroom went very still. Morrison cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a brief recess. Actually, Your Honor. A new voice spoke from the gallery. I believe we need to continue. Everyone turned. A woman in a severe black suit stood holding up FBI credentials. Special Agent Catherine Wells. We've been investigating allegations of elder abuse and fraud. May I approach? Morrison's florid face went gray. That is, on what grounds? We have evidence that this guardianship petition is part of a larger scheme to defraud Mrs. Patterson of her inheritance. Agent Wells nodded to Dorothy, who stood as well. We've been monitoring this situation with the cooperation of local law enforcement. This is ridiculous, Sarah burst out. My mother's confused. She needs help. I am confused. I agreed, then pulled out my phone. That's why I started recording things, so I wouldn't forget. I pressed play. Tom's voice filled the courtroom. Yeah, the locksmith just left. All the doors are done. Sarah's got her drinking that wine with the Xanax crushed in it. She should be pretty foggy by now. Then, the developer can meet us here Monday morning. Cash offer $3.2 million. By the time Lynda figures out the house exists, it'll be sold and we'll be gone. The courtroom erupted. Sarah's lawyer frantically whispered to her. Tom stood to leave, but Deputy Chen was already moving to block the exit. There's more, I said calmly, all pretense of confusion gone. Sarah, would you like to hear your grandmother's opinion of you? I played Eleanor's video recorded a month before her death. My mother appeared on screen frail but fierce. I'm making this recording to document that my granddaughter Sarah Coleman has been systematically stealing from me for 5 years. I have evidence of thefts totaling over $300,000. She has a severe gambling addiction and owes money to dangerous people. I've left everything to my daughter Lynda, who Sarah has been poisoning against me with lies about my not wanting contact. Sarah knows she's not in my will. I fear she'll try to steal Lynda's inheritance through whatever means necessary. Turn it off, Sarah screamed. That's fake. She was senile. Mrs. Coleman, you're under arrest for elder abuse fraud and attempted murder. Agent Wells nodded to other agents who'd entered the courtroom. Mr. Coleman, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and theft. As they cuffed my daughter, she stared at me with naked hatred. You knew. This whole time you knew. I knew the moment I heard you plotting on my birthday, I said quietly. The birthday where you drugged me, stole my keys, and tried to steal my mother's house. Yes, Sarah, I knew. Your Honor. Agent Wells addressed Morrison, who looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. We'll need to discuss the vacation home Mr. Coleman's been renovating for you, and the investment advice Mrs. Coleman's been providing. Morrison's arrest was quieter, but no less satisfying. Dr. Keller tried to slip out, but was caught in the hallway. His medical license was suspended pending investigation, and the elderly people in his waiting room would finally be free of his predation. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving me with Patricia and Dorothy. I sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. You did it, Patricia said softly. That took incredible courage. Eleanor did it, I corrected. She gathered the evidence. She saw what Sarah had become. I just finished what she started. Dorothy sat beside me. What happens now? Now. I looked around the empty courtroom where my daughter's life had just ended. Now I use Eleanor's money to help other seniors who've been victimized by family members. I'll make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. And Sarah, I closed my eyes. Sarah made her choices. She chose gambling over family greed, over love, betrayal over trust. I'll make sure the twins are cared for, but Sarah chose her own fate. We left the courthouse to find news vans already gathering. Elder abuse was a hot topic, and a daughter drugging her mother for inheritance money would make headlines. Good. Maybe it would save someone else. That night, alone in my condo, I sat with Eleanor's portrait. "We did it, Mother. We got justice." I could almost hear her voice. About damn time, too. The next morning, I drove to Eleanor's house with the legal keys. The roses were blooming, and I spent the day tending them, planning the senior center that would rise here. Eleanor's last gift wouldn't be money or property. It would be protection for those who needed it most. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom's phone, but it was Monica. I helped them because Tom promised to leave Sarah for me. I didn't know about the drugging. I have information about other victims. Can we talk? I smiled grimly and typed back, "Federal building, tomorrow at 9, bring everything." The web was unraveling, and everyone caught in it would face justice. Eleanor had started this by documenting the truth. I'd finished it by refusing to be a victim. Happy birthday to me indeed. Friday morning brought Monica to the federal building looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her usually perfect makeup smeared. I met her in a conference room with Agent Wells and Patricia present. "I have recordings," she said without preamble, placing a phone on the table. "Tom recorded Sarah planning everything. He wanted insurance in case she turned on him." Agent Wells took the phone, scrolling through files. Her expression grew darker with each one. "These go back 2 years," she said finally. "They weren't just planning to rob you, Mrs. Patterson. They've done this before." My blood chilled. "What?" Monica nodded miserably. 3 other elderly people. Sarah would identify them through the bank. Seniors with no close family significant assets. Tom would befriend them, do small construction jobs. They'd gain trust then. Then Sarah would start the medication. I finished. Document their decline. Take over their assets. The others didn't fight back like you did. Monica pulled out a folder. Margaret Hensley, 82, died in a nursing home 6 months after Sarah became her guardian. Her house was sold, accounts emptied. Official cause of death was failure to thrive. "Murder," Agent Wells said flatly. "That's what we're calling it." Monica laid out 2 more files. Robert Chen, 78. Joyce Williams, 85. Same pattern. Same tragic endings. "Tom kept trophies," Monica said, her voice breaking. "Pictures of the houses, copies of the death certificates. He was proud of it. Called it their retirement plan." I thought I'd known the depths of my daughter's betrayal. I was wrong. Sarah wasn't just a thief or an attempted murderer. She was a serial killer who used paperwork instead of violence. "Why didn't you stop them?" Patricia asked. Monica's laugh was bitter. "Tom promised we'd run away together after this last score, said Sarah was getting too greedy, too sloppy. I believed him because I wanted to." She looked at me. "When I heard you recording him that day talking about Costa Rica, that's when I realized he was playing me too. He'd probably have made me victim number 5 eventually." Agent Wells stood. "We'll need you to testify. In exchange, we can offer limited immunity for your cooperation." As Monica was led away, I sat in stunned silence. 3 people dead. 3 elderly humans who'd trusted my daughter and paid with their lives. "We need to check every guardianship Sarah's ever been involved with," I said. "Every estate Tom's worked on." "Already in progress," Agent Wells assured me. "This is now a multi-state federal investigation. Your daughter and son-in-law are facing life in prison." That afternoon, I met with my grandchildren. The twins' 15-year-old Michael and Melissa sat across from me at a coffee shop, their faces masks of confusion and hurt. "Is it true?" Melissa asked. "What they're saying about Mom and Dad?" I'd prepared a dozen gentle ways to explain, but in the end, only truth would do. "Yes, your parents tried to steal from me, and it appears they've done worse to others." Michael's jaw clenched. "The news said Mom was poisoning you." "She was. And Dad was going to run away with Aunt Monica. That was his plan." Melissa started crying. "We knew something was wrong. Mom's been acting strange for years, always nervous, always on her phone. And the gambling..." You knew about the gambling. I was surprised. She tried to borrow our college funds last year, Michael said bitterly. Dad stopped her, but only because he said they needed to maintain appearances. I guess we know why now. I reached across the table, taking their hands. None of this is your fault, and I promise I'll make sure you're taken care of. College therapy, whatever you need. Can we live with you? Melissa asked in a small voice. Foster care sounds already arranged, I assured them, though we might need to find a bigger place. My condo's a bit small for 3 people. That weekend, while movers packed Sarah's and Tom's belongings for evidence, I took the twins to Eleanor's house. They needed to understand their heritage, all of it. This was your great-grandmother's home. I explained, leading them through rooms their parents had planned to strip and sell. She was a complicated woman, but she loved family fiercely, even when that family disappointed her. In the study, I showed them Eleanor's journals, her records of Sarah's thefts, but also earlier entries about Sarah as a child full of love and hope. She tried to save your mother, I said gently, but some people don't want to be saved. Michael studied a photo of Sarah at their age, bright and smiling. What happened to her son? Addiction is a disease, I said. It changes people, makes them do terrible things. Your mother chose gambling over getting help, and that choice led to worse and worse decisions. Will she go to prison forever? Melissa asked. Probably, I admitted. She hurt people, and there have to be consequences. But that doesn't mean you stop loving her. Love and accountability aren't opposites. Monday brought a circus of media attention. The story of a daughter systematically preying on elderly parents, including her own mother, captured national attention. I gave one interview using it to advocate for stronger elder abuse protections and warning signs families should watch for. The investigation expanded. Tom's construction records revealed suspicious renovations at nursing homes, where residents had died unexpectedly. Sarah's bank activity showed patterns of targeting vulnerable seniors. They'd been building to this for years, getting bolder and greedier with each success. By Wednesday, the arrests totaled 12 people. Nurses who'd helped sedate victims, a funeral director who'd falsified documents, 2 other bank employees who'd identified targets. My daughter hadn't just been a predator. She'd been the center of a predation network. Your testimony will be crucial, Agent Wells told me. You're the only victim who survived with clear evidence. Survived. Such a simple word for such a complex reality. I'd survived my daughter's attempt to erase me, but the woman I'd been, the trusting mother who believed in family above all, she hadn't survived. In her place stood someone harder, wiser, and infinitely sadder. Thursday's raid on Tom's storage unit revealed the full horror. Detailed records of each victim, including plans for 6 more seniors they'd been cultivating. Photos of my birthday party were there, annotated with notes, subject properly sedated, showing expected confusion, guardian petition filing ready. I'd been reduced to subject, not mother, not even Lynda, just another mark in their con game. Among the evidence was Tom's exit strategy. Plane tickets to Costa Rica for him and Monica dated for next Friday. Sarah's ticket was notably absent. He'd planned to let her take the fall from the beginning. Friday afternoon, I sat in Eleanor's garden with Patricia and Dorothy. The roses bloomed around us, oblivious to human cruelty. Sarah's lawyer wants to make a deal, Patricia informed me. Full confession in exchange for 25 years instead of life. No deals, I said firmly. Those 3 elderly people don't get deals on being dead. Dorothy nodded approvingly. The prosecutor agrees. They're going for the maximum on all charges. What about the twins? Adjusting, I said. They're strong kids, therapy's helping, and they're nothing like their parents. They've already volunteered to help at the senior center we're planning. Eleanor would be proud, Dorothy said. You took her evidence and built justice from it. That night, I found myself in Eleanor's study going through her papers. In a bottom drawer, I discovered letters she'd written but never sent, all addressed to me. 20 years of apologies, updates and regrets sealed in envelopes. One dated just a week before her death was different. My dearest Lynda, if you're reading this, then you found the others. 20 years of cowardice all stacked neatly in a drawer. I could never send them because I couldn't admit I was wrong. You chose love. I chose pride. You built a life of meaning. I built a fortress of things. You were always the stronger one. I'm leaving you everything not as an apology. It's too late for those, but as a weapon. Sarah's coming for you. I've seen the darkness in her fed by desperation and greed. Use what I've gathered. Protect yourself. Save others if you can. And know this, you were the daughter I deserved, not the daughter I wanted. The distinction cost us 20 years. Don't let my mistakes define your future. With all the love I could never say mother. I pressed the letter to my chest and wept. For Eleanor, for the mother I'd lost twice. For Sarah, the daughter I'd lost to greed. For the victims who'd trusted too easily. For myself who'd almost joined them. But tears I'd learned could water new growth. And from the ashes of betrayal, I'd build something beautiful. A legacy of protection, awareness, and hope. The trap had sprung. Justice had been served. Now came the harder task of healing and rebuilding. But first I had 3 murderers' trials to testify at. Eleanor's evidence would speak from beyond the grave, and I'd be her voice. The predators had become prey, and they'd learn what happened when you hunted the wrong grandmother's daughter. 1 year later, I stood in Eleanor's former garden, now transformed into the courtyard of the Eleanor Patterson Center for Senior Protection. The roses still bloomed, but now they framed benches where elderly visitors sat with counselors, learning to recognize the signs of financial exploitation and abuse. "Grandma, the news crew's here," Melissa called from the doorway. At 16, she'd grown taller, more confident. The therapy had helped, but mostly it was her own resilience shining through. "They want to interview you about the verdicts," Michael added, appearing beside his sister. He channeled his anger into advocacy, becoming the youngest volunteer trainer at our center. The verdicts. Yesterday's culmination of a year of trials. Sarah guilty on all counts. 3 murders, attempted murder, elder abuse fraud. Life without parole. She'd screamed at the sentencing that I'd destroyed her life, apparently missing the irony. Tom received 40 years eligible for parole at 75. He'd wept like the coward he was. The network had unraveled completely. 18 convictions total, over $200 million in assets recovered from various victims' estates. We'd found 11 more victims across 3 states, though only 4 had survived to see justice. 5 minutes, I told the twins. Let me change into something more professional. In Eleanor's study, now my office, I paused at the mirror. 68 years old, but I looked younger than I had at 67. Amazing what removing poisonous people from your life could do for your health. Marcus Rodriguez knocked at the door. "Mrs. Patterson. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation." Marcus had become our security director after his locksmith business expanded to include safety consultations for seniors. He'd never forgotten that night I'd called him for help. "What kind of situation?" "A woman just came in, says her son-in-law's been giving her vitamins that make her confused. Sound familiar?" "Too familiar. Put her in the blue room. I'll be right there." This was our life now. Everyday heroes and everyday villains playing out dramas of greed and betrayal in living rooms across America. But now victims had somewhere to turn. The woman, Evelyn, was 73, well-dressed, but with that telltale tremor of fear. Her story echoed mine. A daughter in debt, a son-in-law with access to her house, mysterious illness after family dinners. "They think I don't know," she said, clutching her purse. "But I heard them talking about power of attorney. My neighbor saw your story on the news, said you'd understand." I understood too well. We ran the protocols. Blood test for substances, document review, legal consultation. By evening, Evelyn had a restraining order and police protection, while authorities investigated. "You saved my life." she whispered as her sister came to take her home. Eleanor saved your life, I corrected. She saved all of us. The news interview was brief. The reporter wanted sensational details about Sarah's betrayal, but I kept the focus on prevention and protection. Seniors watching needed hope, not horror stories. The Eleanor Patterson Center has helped over 300 seniors in our first year, I said into the camera. We've prevented an estimated $50 million in theft and caught 12 perpetrators before they could escalate to violence. But the real victory is education. Every senior who learns to spot the warning signs is a life potentially saved. After the crew left, I walked through our center, the computer lab where Dorothy taught seniors cybersecurity, the legal clinic where Patricia's volunteer lawyers reviewed documents for free, the support groups for families torn apart by elder abuse. In the main hall hung Eleanor's portrait painted from the last photo taken before her death. A brass plaque beneath read, Eleanor Patterson, 1933-2024. She gathered evidence. We delivered justice. You did good, Grandma, Melissa said, slipping her hand into mine. Even if you couldn't save Mom, you saved all these people. We all did good, I said. Even your mom in a twisted way. Her crimes led to laws that will protect thousands. Sarah's case had indeed changed legislation. The Patterson Act passed 6 months ago made elder abuse a federal crime with mandatory minimums. Banks now had to report suspicious patterns involving senior accounts. Doctors face stricter oversight when prescribing sedatives to elderly patients. That evening, we held our monthly survivors' dinner. Margaret Hensley's sister attended along with Robert Chen's daughter and Joyce Williams' nephew. We'd become a family forged by loss but bonded by purpose. I hired a private investigator, Margaret's sister announced. Found 2 more victims in Nevada, both still alive. We toasted with sparkling cider. None of us trusted wine anymore, and shared updates. Joyce's nephew had started a podcast on elder abuse. Robert's daughter was finishing law school specializing in elder law. We were an army now growing stronger with each saved life. Monica attended these dinners too, earning redemption through her testimony and continued cooperation. She'd served 6 months and now worked as our outreach coordinator, using her intimate knowledge of predator tactics to train others. Tom called me from prison, she said quietly. Wanted me to put money in his commissary account. What did you tell him? Someone asked. That I was too busy helping his victims to help him. She smiled grimly. He hung up on me. As the evening wound down, Marcus approached with his tablet. Mrs. Patterson, we've had a request from 60 Minutes. They want to do a feature on the center. Schedule it. I agreed. But they have to promise to include our warning signs list and the hotline number. Our hotline, 1-800-NOT-PRAY, received over 100 calls daily. Each one represented a potential tragedy, prevented a family saved from destruction. I stepped onto the porch where Dorothy sat watching the sunset. Any regrets? She asked. About Sarah. I considered the question I'd been asked 1,000 times. I regret that I couldn't save her from herself, but I don't regret stopping her. Those 3 people she killed deserved justice. And you, what did you deserve? I deserved a daughter who loved me more than money, but we don't always get what we deserve. I smiled sadly. Sometimes we get what we need instead. I needed to become someone who could help others. Sarah's betrayal forced that transformation. The twins found us there, bringing tea and cookies they'd baked. We sat together as the sky painted itself in shades of rose and gold, 4 generations united by truth rather than blood. Tell us about Great-Grandma Eleanor, Michael requested. Not the sad parts, the good stuff. So I told them about Eleanor's strength, her intelligence, her fierce protection of what mattered, how she'd built a business empire in an era when women weren't supposed to, how she'd gathered evidence like a detective, planned like a general, and loved like a lioness, even when that love was hidden behind pride. She sounds like you, Grandma, Melissa observed. No, I said softly. I'm who she wanted to be, someone who chose love but kept the strength. She had to pick one or the other. I learned you can have both. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Just got word. The feds found another ring in Florida using Sarah's methods. They're asking for our help to train their team. I showed it to Dorothy, who nodded. The work continues. The work continues, I agreed. Later, alone in Eleanor's study, I opened her journal to write my nightly entry. It had become my ritual, documenting our saves and losses, planning new programs, recording wisdom for future advocates. Tonight's entry was different. Dear Eleanor, today marks 1 year since justice was served. Sarah will never hurt another soul. Tom rots in prison. Their victims have been named and honored. Your evidence didn't just save me, it saved hundreds. The twins are thriving. They have your intelligence and my compassion, the best of both bloodlines. They'll carry on this work when I'm gone. I forgave you long ago for our 20 years apart. Now I hope you've forgiven me for what I had to do to Sarah. She was your granddaughter, but she was also a monster. You saw it first. I finished it. The roses are blooming beautifully. I hired a master gardener to tend them. Mrs. Chen, I know the name, but she's the best. She says roses grow strongest when they're pruned hard. Like families, perhaps. We've been pruned to the root, but we're growing back stronger. Thank you for the weapons you left me. Not just evidence, but courage. Thank you for showing me that love sometimes means letting go, that justice sometimes requires destroying what we created. Your daughter, finally and forever, Lynda. I closed the journal and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new victims seeking help, new predators to stop. But tonight, I was at peace. In the hallway, Eleanor's portrait watched over us all. I paused, touching the frame gently. We did it, Mother, I whispered. We turned poison into medicine, betrayal into purpose. We won. And in the silence of the old house reborn as a sanctuary, I could almost hear her reply. No, daughter, you won. I just gave you the ammunition. The Eleanor Patterson Center for Senior Protection stands today as a monument to a complicated woman's final gift and a betrayed mother's transformation. Every life saved adds another rose to Eleanor's garden. Every predator caught adds another bar to Sarah's cage. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the worst betrayals. Sometimes we have to lose everything to find our true purpose. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice tastes sweeter than birthday cake could ever be. To everyone reading this, watch for the signs. Trust but verify. Love your family, but love yourself more. And remember, the best revenge against those who would prey on your trust is to help others avoid the trap. Be vigilant, be wise, be the hero your younger self needed. And if you're sitting with an elderly relative right now, put down this story and ask them, is anyone making you feel unsafe? Is anyone giving you special tea? Are you okay? Their answer might save their life. The statistics are staggering. 1 in 10 seniors will experience elder abuse. Financial exploitation by family members accounts for 60% of these cases. But we're not statistics. We're mothers and fathers, grandparents and great-grandparents. We're human beings who deserve to age with dignity, not fear. I think of Margaret Hensley, Robert Chen, and Joyce Williams often. They haunt my dreams not as accusers, but as reminders. Each saved senior is a small redemption for not saving them. Each prevented theft is an apology for what was stolen from them. Sarah remains unrepentant in prison, still claiming I stole her inheritance, destroyed her life. She writes letters I don't read, makes phone calls I don't accept. The twins visited her once seeking closure. They came back shaken but resolved. She's not our mother anymore, Michael said quietly. She's just someone who looks like her. Melissa added, she asked if we could put money in her commissary account. Even now, all she wants is money. I held them while they grieved the mother they'd never really had. Then we went back to work because work is how we heal. Every day at the center brings new challenges, but also new triumphs. Last month, we celebrated our 100th successful intervention. A woman in Oregon, a man in Texas, twins in Maine whose children were plotting together. The patterns are always similar: isolation medication, documentation theft, But now people recognize them. Now there's a number to call, a place to go, people who believe them. Eleanor's house has become more than a senior center. It's a fortress against exploitation, a university teaching survival of family for those whose blood relatives became predators. The roses in her garden have spread new bushes planted by grateful families, each bloom a life saved or avenged. Sometimes I stand in that garden and remember my 67th birthday. The last birthday I was naive. The last birthday I trusted blindly. The birthday that ended one life and began another. Sarah whispered to her husband that day, "I'll distract her, you go to her house and change the locks." She thought she was locking me out. Instead, she locked herself into a prison of her own making. She thought she was stealing my inheritance. Instead, she gave me a purpose greater than any amount of money. And Eleanor, watching from whatever comes after, must be laughing at the irony. She spent 20 years locked in pride, unable to reach out. But in death, she reached not just to me, but to hundreds of seniors who needed her protection. The locks have all been changed now, not just on houses, but on hearts and minds. We've locked out naivety and locked in wisdom. We've locked out blind trust and locked in healthy skepticism. We've locked out predators and locked in protection. To those reading this who recognize themselves in my story, whether as potential victim or recovering perpetrator, know this: it's never too late to change course. If you're being exploited, reach out. If you're exploiting others, stop. The prison Sarah sits in is cold and lonely, and it's filled with people who thought they'd never get caught. But more than that, know that survival is possible. Recovery is possible. Purpose can rise from the ashes of betrayal. I'm living proof. Every morning I wake up grateful. Grateful Eleanor documented the truth. Grateful I overheard that whispered conversation. Grateful I found the strength to fight back. Even in a strange way, grateful to Sarah for showing me how strong I could be when everything I loved was threatened. The Eleanor Patterson Center will outlive us all. It's written into the foundation documents. This house will shelter and protect seniors for as long as it stands. The roses will bloom for generations, tended by those who understand that sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow from the darkest soil. So here's my challenge to you. Look around. Check on your elderly neighbors. Question sudden changes in their health or finances. Be the advocate they might desperately need. Don't wait for a birthday revelation or a whispered plot. Act now. Because somewhere right now, an elderly person is being handed special tea. Somewhere a son or daughter is plotting to steal an inheritance. Somewhere a vulnerable senior is wondering if anyone will believe them. Be their hope. Be their hero. Be the person who says, "I believe you and I'll help." The locks on Eleanor's house have been changed one final time. Now they keep out predators and welcome in those seeking protection. The whispered plot that should have destroyed me instead built a fortress for others. And that perhaps is the greatest revenge of all, turning weapons meant to harm into tools that heal. Thank you for reading our story. If it saves even one life, then every painful word was worth writing. Now I have a question for you, and I hope you'll share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you love ever experienced financial exploitation by a family member? What warning signs do you wish you'd known about sooner? Please like this story. If it touched your heart, subscribe to hear more about our ongoing fight against elder abuse, and share it with anyone who might need to hear its message. Together we can build a world where aging is safe and dignity is non-negotiable. From the Eleanor Patterson Center and from my heart to yours, stay vigilant, stay strong, and remember the best inheritance you can leave your loved ones is the knowledge of how to protect themselves. With love, hope, and eternal gratitude, Lynda Patterson.